start with a solidarity clap or something now that I see all these machista friends. So if we were in person, we'd be starting with a solidarity clap. It's so good to see you
Don't
guys.
let that hold you back, sister. Just do it.
Just do it. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yes! I so appreciate that. Thank you, Gamboa. It's really, really, really good to see all of you. Thank you so very much for joining us here today. I am so incredibly lucky. I live just down the street here from Nepantla and get a chance to see Jake every now and then, pop in to get some holiday presents and get a chance to see our old friends. And when I was talking about, what we could do in this election to really lift up our friends, especially folks who've been hardest hit by COVID, Jake came to mind because not only is he an artist, he's a small business owner, and also as a person of color, one of the things that we're really trying to do this year is focus on what this world has meant post-COVID. And it's also been really sad to not see friends. And so this is a compilation of being able to do everything all at once. See friends, have a reunion with Mechistas, talk to Chicano friends, and also talk about artists and the importance of arts and culture in this time as we respond to COVID, as we see pictures of essential workers behind us. And so this is a really exciting opportunity to see so many friends on the line here today. And I want to give Jake a quick second to introduce himself because I think you probably recognize 3/4 of the people on the screen. But for folks who might not know you or have had the chance to have gone to UW, Metcha with you like I did, and so many on the line here, if you want to introduce yourself and what the gallery is all about, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So are we ready with camera 2?
Oh, no? Camera 2, okay.
I'll introduce myself. First, my name is Jake Prendez. I'm a Chicano artist. I grew up in Bothell, moved there from Cali when I was about 5 years old. I jokingly say my family were Chicano pioneers. Back when we moved up here in the 80s, you couldn't find good pan dulce or tortillas or anything. My grandparents would ship it up from California, and by the time it would get here, it was all stale and old. But we ate. It was but it was still just warm it up and it'll be softened. And now, man, it's there's panaderias right down the street here in White Center, and I feel so man, I see stale pan dulce, and now it's everywhere. So definitely things have gotten better. We're at the Nepantla Cultural Arts Gallery, and I would love to give you a quick little tour before I begin the presentation. So if we're ready,
let's do that.
Is it working? Okay, cool. So we are here at the Nepantla Cultural Arts Gallery. Communities. This month, our exhibition is entitled Essential, and it's highlighting essential workers. We had about 14 different artists submit work for this show. We've sold about 10 pieces in this exhibition, so it did really well. Next month, we're having a Queer Pride exhibition entitled The Divine. July is going to be our Chingonas exhibition, which will be an all mujeres and all women's art show. And it looks like in August, we're going to do a lowrider art show. So that'll be a lot of fun.
That sounds amazing.
So hopefully that works out. So there's 3 parts of the Nepantla. There's the gallery wall, there's the gift shop. And if you can flip around, we'll give you an idea. This is our gift shop. We have amazing stuff here like pan dulce pillows, artwork, sarambe hats, and bath bombs, and are shaped as an Aztec calendar or whatever. But this is all my work on this wall. And then the third part of Nepantla was a cultural space. And unfortunately, because of COVID, that's the one part we're not able to really do right now. So we used to host about 2 to 3 free art workshops for community. We would have open mic nights, bring in guest speakers. We ran a youth arts program called the Próxima Generación Youth Artist Residency. And then we'd have big opening exhibitions for all our art shows, and this place was absolutely packed. But even, in the pandemic and not able to do these big events, community has still shown up. They've supported Nepantla. They're in here checking out the exhibitions, you know, 4 people at a time mask. And they're shopping in the gift shop. And so we are so grateful for all of your support. Myself and Judy Alicia Gonzalez, who is my partner in life and business. You know, we are so, you know, humbled by, you know, all your support and generosity and things like that. So it's an absolute pleasure to be doing this presentation today for Prendez, a good friend of mine. So should we go ahead and get into the presentation part? Or do you want
yes, but I want to make a pitch for Jake real quick. So if you guys haven't been to this gallery, this is part of really why I think having a Zoom is exciting. If we were able to be in person, it would be great to be able to walk around, maybe have some wine or a margarita, some snacks, and we'd be able to check out the art. So we're here to do a little walkthrough, and maybe we can like kind of do a full circle as you get set up for the presentation. But we also want you to think about buying some art today. Check out this amazing art. This is all Jake Prendez original art here. I have some posters in my house. I know that Velma Gloria, former Representative Gloria, has it right behind her screen when she's doing a Zoom. And this is an opportunity for us to support friends and also really, you know, how we support artists during this time of COVID. I want to thank Jake and all of the artists who came out. Folks know that I'm running for re-election. This is why we're doing this. But I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for folks that are on the Zoom right now and for you and your support last time around. How many of you guys came to the art event that Jake helped to host 4 years ago? That was one of that. Because, and also I should have said at the beginning, take yourselves off mute. Like, don't worry about being on mute for the Zoom. Take yourself off, shout out, do what Gamboa did at the beginning. Like, let us know your thoughts and also put it in the chat too. Because if you were at that event 4 years ago, you would have seen a lot of the really cool posters, stickers, opportunities to see folks in person buying art. And since we can't do that now, we want to make sure that you get the chance to buy it here. So we're going to do a little presentation because it's not just about supporting folks in the moment. I think it's about like looking at the history of art and art as rebellion, especially in this moment. But before we do that, is it okay if I walk folks through here as you get set up?
Sounds good.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so come with me if you will. So I have 2 of these posters at home. It'd be even better if you bought the painting as Jake has here on the wall. Original up here, so check it out. Panning over to this side, you'll see we got stickers, we got keychains. One of the things that can you hold it?
Sorry.
That's okay. Actually, if you put yourself on here. That's okay. I'll mute it there.
Wait, Teresa.
Vanessa, your computer needs to be on mute.
Right now.
Okay, so
Yes.
just wrapping up, like look at all the art that Jake puts on display. Do come and check this out in person if you haven't yet. And also remember, Jake-Prendez is a way to buy on Venmo today. And I just want to thank all of you for being on the line here. We're going to turn it over to Jake to get us through this presentation and then really have some Q&A. And one thing I want to say as well, as we're standing in front of sort of art as a display of not only current history of workers and also reflecting our past, like if you look at some of Jake's pieces up here, looking at our cultural history, one of the things that's I think really important to remember is how we continue to tell oral history and how we make this like the beginning of, I think, a reunion going forward. I know Miguel, you're thinking about that. I know Juan was thinking about it. Randy, we've all talked about how we use this as a launching point for future conversations among Chicanos, among former Mechistas, and especially artists like Jake. So I'm gonna get out of the way and go sit down over here and just turn it over to Jake and say thank you.
All right. So I'm excited to do a presentation for you all. If we can go ahead and I guess get the presentation on the screen here. There you go. Perfect. So the title of this presentation is The Art of Rebellion, Social Justice and Chicano Visual Arts. And if we can get the next slide, we'll go ahead and just jump right into it. So I'm going to start off with Mexican muralism in this presentation, but just want to give kind of the asterisk here that, revolutionary art does not start with Mexican muralism. I am just using this as a springboard, just a starting place for us. But so Mexican muralism kind of became very important in the 20s and 30s. Prior to this, there was the Mexican Revolution, which lasted from the 1910s to 20s. And you have to think of Mexico as kind of nation states, not this unified idea of Mexico as, that we have today. So after the revolution, there was kind of this Reconstruction period where they wanted to create this unified identity for the country. And so Jose Vasconcelos, who was appointed Secretary of Public Education, basically gathered these artists and had this idea of creating murals in public places to kind of create, again, this unified Mexican identity. And some of the artists that they employed, I'll get to talking to in a minute. But what was important was the shift from the way we looked at art as a commodity, art for the elite, to art for the public sector, and art as, no longer a commodity, but art for the people. All right, so we can go to the next slide. I want to show you who los tres grandes. So you have David Alfaro Siqueiros, Jose Clemente Orozco, and Diego Rivera. Next slide, please. So I want to give you some examples of their work. So here you have Diego Rivera, who was best known for being Frida Kahlo's husband. But I love this mural because what starts to happen is at the beginning, the murals really focus on indigenous identity, kind of Aztec history, and Mayan, and playing to kind of some of these traditional backgrounds. And a lot of these muralists were leftists, staunch socialists, and were really involved in workers' rights. And so this mural really highlights that transition. And so on one side, you kind of have this indigenous life, and then on the other side is kind of the mechanization of Mexico, right? And you literally have in the middle, Colicue, which is the mother god, being transformed into a machine. So I think this mural here really highlights that transition. Okay, if you can see the next slide, please. Now, of the three, Jose Clemente Orozco was not a socialist. He saw socialism, Nazism, religion as really all isms. They were all problematic. And so in this mural here, I think it highlights his stance. You have kind of like the bowels of hell. You have kind of people holding the Christian cross, the swastika, the hammer and sickle. So he's kind of saying like all of these are human made, they're all problematic, and we need to be conscious of this. All right, if we can get the next slide, please. Now, David Alfaro Siqueiros did not have an issue. He was a staunch socialist and literally puts Karl Marx at the front of his mural. So you have kind of Marxists on one side, the workers in the middle, and then you have the original Zapatistas on the right-hand side. All right, get the next slide, please. Now, what starts to happen is Mexican muralists start getting hired in the United States to teach art. So they're touring American universities, teaching art, and they start inspiring the next generation of artists. Now, if you paid attention in history class, you know all about the FDR's New Deal. And part of the New Deal was the Works Progress Administration, which basically put people back to work, right? And under that was the WPA. Well, through the WPA, they were able to employ artists. So they had artists, you know, painting murals, which they basically kind of got from Mexico, this idea of murals in public places, had them doing screenplays and doing propaganda posters, and just artists back to work in different areas and different mediums. But so this whole new kind of genre of art, social realism, starts to take full. Now, social realism is not called social realism at the time. It wasn't, the term wasn't coined until the 70s, when they were looking back like, what do we even call that? And so they gave it the name social realism. But what social realism did was it really made the working class and the poor as the heroic. And so what you see is this very nitty gritty, not purposely not beautifying and showing struggle as it is, but showing these people as heroic, and you have that same very strong workers' rights themes happening in the art. So I want to give you some examples of some social realist artwork. So if we can get the next slide, please. So this, just kind of shows you some of the work that was, being created during that time, and that, obviously is heavily influenced by the Mexican muralists. Now, being kind of an art nerd myself and studying this in college and things like that, every once in a while I'll run into like a post office or a high school that still kind of has one of these murals intact, or kind of social era, Depression era artwork still in a public building. And I geek out and I'm like, oh my God, like that, this was created. And I start talking to people, like, they're like, dude, just buy your stamps and shut up. I'm like, all right, whatever. So, so this is just some examples. And we get the next slide, please. Now, if you can, imagine what's going to happen now, right? Well, the social realist artists start teaching at the universities, and they start influencing artists that become our civil rights movement artists, right? So here's some images of some civil rights movement era art. You have, the Boy Got Grapes poster, you have the Sun Made Raisin poster, which were, about boycotting, or basically about, farm workers' rights and the struggle in the fields. And then the one in the middle is an Emory Douglas piece. So Emory Douglas was basically the artist for the Black Panther Party newspaper. And what was great about Emory Douglas is people loved his work. So folks were like collecting the Black Panther Party newspaper to get the new Emory Douglas piece, right? And they were just like, oh, is that new Emory Douglas piece in the new issue? And so they started collecting his work. And so, it spread his message to, wider folks, because it was being, sought after. Now, here's where we're gonna play a little game here. And I want folks to speak up, because I'm not moderating the chat. What is different about this art versus some of the social realist art and the Mexican muralist art? Does anyone want to just chime in? Cricket. Anyone brave enough?
It looks more accessible in terms of like the design, and I imagine it's just circulating broadly more than a mural.
Yeah, you're on the right track, but why is it more accessible? Why do you think it's easily shared?
Yeah, I'm thinking if it's in newsletters, it's probably a wider distribution. So how it's produced or reproduced.
Yeah. So these are screen prints, right? So what becomes in vogue in this era is the screen print. And what it literally does is it takes the art off the wall and into the hands of the people. So it's the same idea of art for the people. It's the same idea as, art not as a commodity, but because it's mass produced, right? You can now print thousands of these and get them into, out at marches and rallies and into communities, and it spreads the art. Your message now goes wider, okay? All right, if we can get the next slide, please. Now, here's just some examples of some contemporary protest posters. And does anyone want to, throw an idea what's different now than kind of the 70s, 60s, 70s era? Because they look very similar, I would contend. Couple more seconds.
They're digitally produced?
Good job. So yeah, so a lot of these are either created, digitally, or they're, put on social media, right? So you need from a picture or a scan or something, but they're digitized. So now you have taken the art off the wall into the hands of the people with screen printing, and we've taken a step even further with social media and spreading it internationally. So everyone's going to get your message regardless of where you're at. So if you are talking about immigration, if you are talking about Black Lives Matter, if you are talking about gender issues and queer issues and things like that, you now can get your message all over the world through social media. And I'll give you a quick example of this. In Mexico, well, murals in Mexico versus in Los Angeles, LA, there's the, if you're going to paint a mural, there's budgets involved and restoration money that goes into if someone defaces this mural, getting it fixed and things like that. So in LA, they look at murals with longevity in mind. Like this is going to be here for kind of ever, kind of a thing. In Mexico City, which has this great art movement and mural movement, the murals are painted over within a week or so. So the artists don't think in terms of longevity. They think in terms of getting their work on social media. So they're posting or they're writing their hashtags and their social media accounts onto their mural so that people will follow them and their art survives digitally through social media. So it's crazy to think, just the way the psyche, this is the way they think. They think in terms of a short term, this mural is going to be up on the wall for a week and then it's going to survive digitally, versus in LA where they think this wall mural is there forever, kind of a thing. All right, we get the next slide. All right, so now I'm going to deconstruct some of my artwork because I do not operate in a bubble. My artwork is influenced and informed by those that came before me. So hopefully some of the things I was talking about will ring true kind of with my art. So this series, Cultural Resilience, We Still Exist, really was birthed out of this idea, or I just got tired of folks talking about indigenous communities as an extinct people. We're not extinct, we're still here. And our culture survives in the way we dance, the way we cook, the way we raise our children, work with our elders. Has anyone ever their or someone's told you oh, you laugh just like your grandpa, or you dance just like your mom, or something. You laugh like your dad. These things, it's in our DNA, right? And those are passed down generation after generation. So what I did in this series is portraits of family and friends, and then just painted these Aztec symbols over their portraits to represent this invisible culture that we walk around with every day. Now, the only person that's a little different is the guy with the hat, my friend Nico Centino, professor at CSU Channel Islands. When I asked him to model, he's like, yeah, homie, I'm down, but I'm not Aztec. My family's from northern Mexico, right? And he's like, I'm Yaqui. I was like, well, I can use Yaqui symbols for yours. And so is the painting that's a little bit different. All right, can you get the next slide, please? All right, now this Dulce series, a little humorous series, and I think this one kind of got me, as the kids say, it went viral. But you have the first piece called I Fall to Pieces, and it's a friend of mine, Omar, and it has the mazapan candy behind him. And if you've ever had mazapan, it falls to pieces, and hence the title of the painting. The next one in the middle is You Don't Know My Life. And it's got the churros crossing in the background. And then the last one is a painting of my daughter, and it's entitled Don't Be Self-Conchas. And it's got the concha in the background. And my daughter, she's 22 now, but she's very shy and quiet. And I tease her, I'm like, mija, you're literally the poster child for Don't Be Self-Conchas. And you're self-conscious. She's like, I know. So those, it was a humorous series. Next slide, please. All right. Now this series is called Mujeres Fuertes, Strong Women. The first one is all about love in all its form, in all forms. So I leave the interpretation to the viewer. If you're feeling great about love, she's offering her heart. If you're feeling crappy about love, she's ripped your heart out. So you interpret it how you would like. The middle one is Life Goes On, and it's all about the earth and the environment, and she's kind of Mother Earth, and the whole thing with the shoe and the nopales, what's the most Chicanx shoe out there? Chucks. And and then nopal growing out, and a nod to the movie Wall-E with the boot and the plant growing out. So, and then the last one is Artista, and I just wanted to represent the Chicana artist, and the model is Emilia Cruz, who is an absolutely amazing artist, one of my favorite artists, and we've had a couple of her paintings in the gallery, and I'm hoping to have her back again. So we can get the next slide, please. Okay, so if we could click one time. All right, so this is a series I'm working on, that I continue to work on, called Norman Rockwell in Post-Racial America. This one is actually entitled Dreamers, but it came from Norman Rockwell. Hopefully you've all heard of Norman Rockwell, but he's kind of this person. I love Norman Rockwell. To me, his artwork was witty, it was funny, it was, but it was fluff. It was sell magazines, and it wasn't really taking a really political stance of any kind. But he's been kind of hijacked by the right as this kind of, America that we want back kind of a thing. But the crazy thing is Norman Rockwell is really progressive, and especially later on in his life, he did some amazing pieces that were about the civil rights movement. And people don't know that, especially people on the right. So he had this series called Willie Gillis Goes to War, and it's all about the American, all-American boy during World War II, but it's, him at USO parties and, coming home for the holidays, things like that. It's not the actual war. But the last one of the series was Willie Gillis Goes to College. And in this one, it's all about the GI Bill and the American soldiers coming back and being able to, go to college with the GI Bill. And so I thought, here he is with his, in his dorm room reading a book, and he's got his war memorabilia on the wall. He's got like a Nazi helmet, his medals and things like that. And I thought, well, what would this Chicana's war memorabilia be? And so I created this painting called Chicana in College. And it was, if you can get one more slide, please. So she's got her protest posters, and there she is, reading in her dorm room with her Chicano studies books and her pan dulce, and so yeah, and if you can read backwards. All right, next slide, please. All right, one time. Now this one's called Dreamers, and this was all about rural America getting the opportunity to go to college. So you have this really weathered down, tired looking farm worker father and his son is chipper, well-dressed. He's off to college. He's got his sticker that says state on there on his luggage. So he's, full of hope. And I thought, well, today, who is that? So we can get next slide. And I thought that's the migrant farm worker and the undocumented dreamer son getting that opportunity to go to college. Now he's kind of got like this sad look, and I was a college recruiter for 10 years, and I would work with a lot of migrant communities. And you would hear a lot of people talking about like, oh, Mexican dads are so machismo and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of that is true. But I would hear a lot like, oh, I don't want my son or daughter going off to college so far away. They can stay here, work, or they can go to community college, right? And when you dig a little deeper, we come here for a better life, and we want a better life for our children. That's the whole goal. And a lot of undocumented folks and migrant farm workers, they're treated as like the lowest of the low, right? They're treated horribly. And the people that look up to them are their children, right? To their children, they're the greatest. And there's this like fear of like, I want my child to get a college education, have all those opportunities. But if they do that, if they see the world, they see how great everything is, and they see how the world looks at me, will they still love me? When they know that I'm just the lowest of the low, are they gonna love me still? Will they ever come back? And it's this really heartbreaking moment where you're realizing like, it's not about being just machismo, it's about like losing your family. So I kind of try to give him this like almost depressed look on his face, that he's scared that he's gonna lose his son forever. All right, now that I brought it down, next slide, please. All right, this one more, please. This one's entitled Inspiration of a New Generation. And so you got the little girl with the magazine cover, looks kind of like a Vogue cover, and the model on the cover. And I just thought, well, who's, our generation's heroes? Who are young women looking up to? And I thought of, next slide, AOC. So the little girl's got the magazine cover with AOC. And this one, actually, it took me a while to finish. I had the idea, but just never really completed it. I used my daughter as the model for the body when she was 12. I finished this last year. She was 21. So it took a while for me just to complete this. And it actually started as Sol Niña Sotomayor on the cover. And when I finally finished it, it became AOC. And the thing, what's funny is like, I thought I was like so cool, and I posted it and I had like 600 likes. I'm like, oh, I'm so cool. And then like she shared it on her Instagram stories, and then it was like 6,000 likes. And I'm like, yeah, she is way more popular. Humbled moment. All right, next one, please. All right, this one I just want to show you, just give you like, I guess how my art has progressed. So the first one was one of the first paintings I ever did, but I love the concept, just not the execution. You have the Mayan holding the symbol Chinachli, which means seed, the little girl holding the symbol Xochitl, which means flower. The idea is that our ancestors have planted these seeds that have bloomed into flowers with us, the seventh generation. So for indigenous communities, we didn't look at what was a good decision for us or our children. We looked at 7 generations out. So, we are the flowers of their seeds. So that, I like the concept. I thought it was cool, but her head's too big, the shading's horrible, whatever. So I thought, let me try this again. And actually use my stepdaughter, Catalina, as a model for this one. And I think I got a little better. Next slide, please. And then this series, Contemporary Codices, just started with the idea of like, if we were still doing codices like, the Aztecs and the Mayan, what would they look like today? So I just try to capture everyday community in that style, things you would see, in the streets and in your own community. So you have the paletero, you have kind of these students graduating, you have the solidarity one with, the unity with the African American and like the Chicana back-to-back in solidarity. I have like a break dancer, I have a mariachi, I have a girl taking a selfie of herself, I have a, girl in college. So there's a bunch in this series. All right, next, please. All right, this is one of my newest series. It's called Essential. It's my Essential series, and it's gonna continue to grow. But you have, it's just a series of essential workers. And, I hope to have, someone in the medical profession, some, an educator, different, folks, just, are essential workers. And so you have Santos Lopez, with a red background, who's a farm worker. And then you, on the right-hand side, you have Jimmy Mata, the mayor of Burien, who's, also a union construction worker. And then in the middle, me and my girlfriend, Judy, and, essential love and love in the time of COVID. So I want to throw that one in there. Next slide, please. And then the last piece I just want to show you is just kind of the progression. And so, a sketch on canvas, the undercoating, and usually that undercoating stage is where I hate it and I want to throw it out the window, it's not working. And then once you start putting in the highlights and the shadows and the tones, everything starts popping better, get that background painted in. And then the last step in this painting was just adding all those symbols over the portrait. All right, last slide. And that's just my thank you slide. And I really hope y'all can come visit us at Nepantla Cultural Arts Gallery. We're right on the border of West Seattle and White Center. If you know where Fresh Flowers is, we're literally next door, or at least Produce, we're across the street. Follow us on, Instagram. You can follow my own art page at Jake Prendez, or, the Nepantla Cultural Arts Gallery. Visit our website. We have, online store and things like that if you want to shop later on. We appreciate all that. So thank you so very much, and I will turn it back over.
Beautiful work.
Whoop, whoop.
Okay, we are transitioning. Just bear with us 1 second.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
You've all become experts at Zoom. I really want to, can you guys all take yourself off of mute and give a huge round of applause to Jake? Go for it, take yourself off mute. Okay, I don't know if you had the chance to see any of the comments in the side, but it was like, I love this series. I love this so much. Thank you. Beautiful work. This is all incredible. Thanks for sharing your art. Really cool. And I had a friend, Marisa Chavez on the line, who was saying that she was texting people to have them join because it was really interesting. And I just want to say thank you. I know there's a few folks that want to ask some questions, and that's what this is all about, for us to be able to do that. And before I do, just to orient us to who's on the screen, we have 2 full screens of people who've joined us today. As folks were coming into the Zoom, I was welcoming some people that we saw pop in, but it's always so unfortunate that we can't be in person to hug people and greet them like we normally would. So I just want to say thanks to everybody who's on the line and really highlight a few of the co-hosts here today. Senator Saldana is with us, an incredible leader in the Chicano world, but also for everybody in the state. Representative Harris-Talley, she's on the line with us too. Take yourselves off mute and feel free to chime in anytime. It's so great to see you, and thank you for being here. Representative Lillian Ortiz-Self is also a co-sponsor, and so thankful for her work. And I don't know if folks saw, but we have with us on screen as well former Representative Phyllis Gutierrez Kenny, who is an incredible person I've had the chance to work with in Olympia. So Representative Kenny, I see you, I see your picture, I know you're there. I hope you all take yourself off of mute and join in. Folks, I want to just read out a few of the people who joined us today to support this event. Flor Alarcon, Monty Anderson, Bernal Baca, Jorge Barron, Juan Boca, Miguel Bocanegra, Orlando Cano, Marisa Chavez, Pedro Espinosa, Andrea Gamboa, Roxana Gomez, Eric Gonzalez, EJ, I saw you earlier, EJ Juarez, David Mendoza, I saw you pop in, Shadia Navarro, and Randy Nunez, who you'll hear here in a second, Gabriela Quintana, our old friend, Omar Riojas, so I'm going to come back to Omar, I got a question for you as well. Rogelio Riojas, very excited to see you, one of my first bosses. Appreciate you being on the line and always a supporter. Thank you, Rogelio. Rich Stoltz, Gavin Sullivan, who made our video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Gavin made that, and it also had a feature of Shadia in it, so check that out. Teresita Torres, Shawnee Wheeler, who I called out earlier. Thank you so much. Oscar Zambrano, and our organizational Latino solidarity packs, LPAC, who folks already know, and then Progresso have endorsed in this campaign. And what I see on the line here, Jake, are future candidates. I see you on the line there, future Congresswoman. I see activists, I see other artists, I see teachers. I see electeds, as we mentioned, and I know that they probably have a lot of questions for you. One of the things that I also want to put back on them is, given the history of how art has changed from being on the wall to then being in print to then being on social media, how do we also make sure that we keep records like the ones that you just outlined? And I know Omar has done some work with the Seymour Museum, and wanted to get into that a little bit about how do we preserve that legacy as well, since everything is so digitalized now. But I'll turn it over to folks that have some questions. Maybe.
I do want to say one thing before we get started. I see a lot of my old school UW homies online. It's great to see you all. But I want to point out, I also see my childhood friend on there, Orlando Cano. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, so we go way, way back, and
Which I didn't know.
I know Randy always talks smack about the DSOB crew, but Orlando.
That's the truth.
The DSOB crew. Different shades of brown. It stood for different shades of brown.
DSOB. Well, so Chavez and I are part of the original Brown and Down group from Olympia. Who might not know, this is our sign, Brown and Down. And that goes for the electeds as well, who are on the line, because there were very few of us in the halls of Olympia. So thanks to all of you who are still representing down there. But let's see if folks have questions about what you just shared. And again, thank you very much for doing this. And folks, if you have questions about like what this means for Seattle post-COVID and how we can support more entities like Nepantla and also artists like Jake, let's chat about that too, because all of your ideas are welcome. So throw it out. Like, don't wait for me to call on you. Just jump in. I know you're not shy. Where we at?
Are they?
Are you shy?
I saw a couple of folks come off mute. You're welcome to just jump right in with your question. I don't know if
I see Gabriella off mute. I see Lupe. I see Gamboa off mute. Guadalupe Gamboa, did you also have something? Good to see you.
Oh, hi. Good to see you too. No, I was just taking it off mute, but I don't have anything to say right now.
Well, it's wonderful to see you. I think the last time I saw you, we were at Jeff Johnson's retirement get together. So that was
right.
really incredible to see you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, sorry I'm not on camera. I just got back from exercising, but yeah, I would really love to hear, and based on my own experience as an educator, like what is it that you're doing with young people to help bring up the next generation of young artists?
Yeah, I think COVID has thrown a wrench into that, but we did host the Próxima Generación Youth Artist Residency through this space. So it was in partnership with Northwest Folklife. And every other week we brought in a cultural bear that taught the students a different sustainable art skill. So we had folks like Teresa Martinez, who did a presentation on making piñatas. We had Edwin Lindo, who did a photography workshop with the students. Angelina Villalobos, amazing muralist. So the mural that was in back of me during the presentation, she did all the leafing in that. So talking about art and murals, just cultural bearers like Ramona Flores, just different folks that would come and share palabra with the students. And then at the end, the students would do a presentation, exhibition, depending on what they created in the program for the Northwest Folklife Festival. So because of that, it's gone digital because of COVID. We have a arts lending library in this space. So if you are an artist and you have extra supplies, you can drop off supplies, and then anyone can come and grab supplies for free. So right now we had a bunch of youth art supplies donated. So if anyone just wants to pick up some art supplies, we've got a lot of pens and markers and paper and things like that. They can come in and just grab that stuff for free. It's about putting art, literally into the hands of the people. I do a lot of, just not necessarily Nepantla, but I do a lot of presentations for like middle schools, elementaries, high schools, and colleges, and a lot of those are Zoom now. But so it's really important to work with the youth. I know, because of my past and being kind of, labeled an at-risk youth, told my art was too ethnic and too gangster when I was like in high school, and really stopped doing art for almost 10 years because of it. I know how important art is, dealing with your angst, dealing with, what you're going through. But I also think we need to work with adults as well. A friend of mine, she was saying that, I was this at-risk youth, and then I turned 18 and I was just an at-risk adult. So we art is still amazing way for adults to deal with, what we have to deal with, and so that's one of the reasons why we do like the free art workshops and things like that. What we do is we'll hire an artist to lead a workshop. We'll get a list of the supplies, and then that way it's 100% free for community. The supplies are here, everything. There's no fee to be a part of it. So one of our main goals is about access to art and putting art in the hands of the people.
I have a question for Teresa.
Go for it.
What are some of the things that the city is doing to support public art and people like Jake to get their art more accessible and put it out there in public spaces?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Miguel. And so folks probably know that, the story of El Centro, right? And the beautiful murals and the art that's on the side of the building in El Centro. I'm sure you've all seen it. Well, when Estela tells me that story, she says it took 7 years to get approval for that type of art to be on the outside, which is just outrageous. I mean, we all applaud El Centro for being next to a transit center in the middle of community, creating community and space. But one of the things that I've been doing is fighting to make sure that our policies around housing and building codes actually can represent and reflect the community there, and it doesn't take 7 years for people to go through something like that. So we changed some of the policies at the city about making sure that art and the community spaces that we want to create can actually be reflective and people don't have to fight for that. That's on the housing side. Fighting for additional housing so that more artists can afford to live in our city is something that's been a big priority for me, and continuing to put priority language in, not just for more funding for housing, but more funding for housing for artists, and also making sure that there's more first-time home buyer opportunities, and that it's not just funding for housing developers, but housing developers rooted in community that are focused on providing housing for those historically marginalized and left out of housing and currently facing high risk of displacement. And what we're doing in about 10 days is including language in the American Rescue Plan Act so that there's actual funding directly for artists, and especially for, I guess, organizations who use art as a way to respond to trauma. What I've been hearing a lot about is kiddos who are isolated, anxious, depressed because of everything that's happening with COVID, and maybe even life prior to COVID, and using art as a way to address mental health needs and behavioral health needs, and supporting some of those organizations as part of what we're going to include in the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. That said, it's not enough, right? We need to do way more of that, and we need to make it a lot easier for artists to afford to live in the city and have that type of support. So love the question and need to keep building on that as well.
Yeah, and if there's any artists out there, definitely make sure you're checking out For Culture, Artist Trust, Arts WA, and applying for those grants. Super, super supportive folks in those organizations that have really helped us.
What was the last one? For Culture, Artist WA, and
Artist Trust.
Artist Trust. Okay, good. I might just actually drop that in the bill. Okay, see what we can do. Other questions? Yes, go ahead, Pedro.
Yeah, again, thank you, Teresa. This is an awesome event. Jake, I want to applaud you. My household is full of artists. That's all I see is art being drawn. I have a dancer. She does flamenco. My youngest daughter, been doing it since the age of 4. And I think that that's the expression of our beautiful expressions of how we express ourselves through our lenses, through our eyes. I also appreciate the fact that, you brought this chunk of history and you're teaching folks of how artists from Mexico were brought to the United States, which is something I never knew. I've been on an exploration of my own cultures, figuring out why things are happening the way they're happening, and finding myself, being more part of my homeland than what I really was. I understood it for what it was. And just, I'm just proud to see that we have artists like yourselves that are putting yourself out there, making sure that, we don't forget our culture, because for the longest time, I think it's been stripped away from us, and we need to keep doing that. We need to keep teaching our youth where we come from, the beauty that we have inside of us, the music, the art, just the whole thing, how it's amazing how you're able to do that. And if that's something that you continue doing, man, brother, I really love this. I thank you for it.
Thank you. And there's actually a really great tie to Seattle. Um, there was a shipyard mural that was at a Union Hall back in, I think in the 20s. That was painted by Pablo O'Higgins, who directly studied under Diego Rivera. Mm. So I think his name was Peter O'Higgins, and he started working with Diego. He's like, I am now Pablo O'Higgins, and went to Mexico and did murals and things like that, and worked with him. But he did this mural in Seattle, and when they tore down the Union Hall, it went to University of Washington, and it was in a like storage for like 50 years or something like that. Um, Students found out about this and made sure that the university put that mural back up, and I believe that mural now is at Kane Hall. So,
I believe that's that's a mural out of 131. That's local 131, the Carpenter's mural. That's when that building got torn down, and so they had to preserve the mural. Yeah, it was very beautiful. And I also want to say that the representation of the social movement, the labor and civil rights has always been tied together in some of these murals, and you see the expression of how you said that the mechanism, how we are building a machine, when it was back to where our roots were, the people, and that's all they were drawing. But then all of a sudden you see the combination of this mechanism being built, which is where we're at right now. And I think that also teaches a lot of us of where we are as far as the civil rights movement, where we are in the labor movement, of how we need to get back to the roots of being human, of being, caring and compassion. And I think that's what this pandemic has shown us, is that we need to get back to those roots. We need to let go of the ties of the mechanisms that are enslaving us, and we need to make sure that we get back together to our roots.
Well, let's talk about that for just a second. I know that we're coming up on the 6 o'clock hour. We want to be respectful of folks' time. But let's talk about that real quick. And maybe I can ask Omar, and I know Miguel, you were mentioning this story as well. Randy, you might remember too from our Machista days, but I know that there was a story that was also shared about Kane Hall too. So maybe it was also both locations. Omar, I understand you were pretty instrumental in that Ethnic Cultural Center mural. Remember that mural that we had in the Machista Hall that they tried to destroy? Remember that? I feel like there is a theme with what you just said about how we preserve art on walls and what we should be doing collectively to get those existing art maintained, and also how we can feature it in places like the museum.
Yeah, and I think because now that I've visited the ECC, because I used to actually work in the ECC when I was at UW, and crazy thing is my son worked at the ECC when he was at UW. And so visiting, the new ECC and seeing how they preserve those murals is amazing. I believe that's a lot of thanks to folks on our Zoom call right now.
And that's the Ethnic Cultural Center for folks who didn't go to UW Metro with us. Omar, did you have anything else you wanted to chime in on that piece?
No, I mean, it was a collective effort. There's a lot of folks on this call that helped in that effort. Folks like Miguel and Randy and Andrea and Phyllis and others. But it's a consistent theme, which is the idea of making sure that we preserve our history, for the next generation. And when we found out that those murals were going to be destroyed, they were going to be preserved supposedly, in a digital form. But we wanted them to be preserved, because there was a lot of history for them, and I think it was a good thing. And they were kept in the new Ethnic Culture Center. There was 4 murals in the 4 rooms: the Chicano room, the Black room, the Asian room, and Native American room. And I think that the university did a good job, and they did a good job of listening to us. But it did take us collectively organizing ourselves and making sure that our history, quite frankly, was preserved. And I see a lot of that, in Jake as well, and his artwork. And I've been following Jake. I'm extremely proud that I went to school with him, and his artwork, I think, is a perfect example of sort of the evolution of Chicanismo, right? In terms of the art of rebellion and making sure that we preserve our history, but also seeing some of what he's trying to teach. Right, and one of my favorites that I love of Jake's art is the I think you've called it the Our Lady of Detentions, Jake, and for me that really resonates, especially given the folks that are 30 miles down the road at the detention center, right? And I know Jorge Baron knows what I'm talking about, and others on this call as well. And seeing, you pay homage to that, Jake, it's just been a great thing for what you're doing to the community and helping to preserve, our history and teaching folks about our history.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Well, I just want to also offer to the mujeres who are leaders, Representative Kenny, Senator Saldana, Representative Harris Talley, any other items that you wanted to have or questions, comments you wanted to make before we turn it over to the wrap up section.
Well, City Councilwoman. And I want to thank you very much for bringing this forward, and I hope all those that saw it will continue to tell the stories that we heard here today and some of the stories that we'll hear later on, because I think our young people need to be exposed more. They need to see this. They need to know our history. They need to know what's happening. But this has been wonderful, and thank you very much. And thank you, Jake.
Thank you so much for being here.
It is I did want to make an announcement talking about history. The WSU has a collection of photos from the late 60s and early 70s of farm workers in the Yakima Valley and the beginning of the farm workers movement, the hop strike that occurred during that time, that a lot of our people don't know anything about, because history has been erased pretty much, very effectively by the powers that be. So they started a Facebook page where people can just put in Irwin Nash Farm Worker Photo Project, and it'll give you access to all the photos. It's gotten a lot of publicity in the Yakima Valley. I don't think it's gotten very much publicity here. It's very worthwhile seeing.
Thank you so much. We will put some information out on social media. I'll follow up with you on that so we can get that as well. That'd be really wonderful. Well, we are not done yet because I want to, after Randy goes, I want to walk around a little bit more to see if folks want to take a peek at any more art pieces and make sure that you purchase because Jake has a Venmo. I put it in the chat, Jake and Prendez, and I know people are interested in your hours of operations.
Yes, so we are opened Thursday through Sundays from noon to 6. So please stop by and visit us. We're in, obviously COVID protocol, 4 people at a time with masks. We are both fully vaccinated, so we made a decision to mask here.
It's hard to hear with the mask on in the Zoom. So.
Yeah, but yeah, you bring your mask if you come here.
Well, thank you. And Randy, I'm going to turn over to you because this was really inspired by a conversation I had with you as well. And appreciate you being on the line here. And I know you offered to say some words, so thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And Jake, thanks. I know this is the second opportunity you've had to put together support for the Teresa's campaign. So it's also nice to be here. And I have to confess, this is the second time I've heard Jake's presentation. That's why I knew one of the answers earlier. And Teresa, and I just got to say, I'm really honored to support your campaign in any way. It's been at least 20 years as undergrads. And my story of meeting you, I think it includes Miguel Bocanegra, being at the University of Washington lawn, tabling, trying to recruit people into Mecha with flyers. And you may be in the history of Mecha's, maybe 100 years, to have ever been recruited via a flyer and actually showed up. So I think it really speaks to, your commitment to the cause. I mean, I think that moment where you were listening to what Mecha was about and willing to show up, and your curiosity and your drive, and really even beyond Mecha at the University of Washington, your involvement with organizing the teachers union or the teaching assistants union to keeping tuition down at the University of Washington and to all the other causes during that particular moment, I think was always just been incredible. So I think everybody who's here, knows who you are and what you are about, or at least knows some of the co-hosts who to this event and can vouch for the kind of person you are, and honored to have somebody like you to represent the people of Seattle. And so, with that said, it's my honor to ask for everyone here to continue to support Teresa. Definitely appreciate everybody being here to hear Jake's presentation, and are also asking everyone here to support Teresa's campaign by way of supporting her campaign. If you are a resident of Seattle, you have access to what they call democracy vouchers, and you are able to donate your democracy vouchers to local candidates, and Teresa as being one of them. I believe you have up to $100 of those democracy vouchers that I'm asking for you to make that contribution to Teresa's campaign. In any campaign, it requires resources, right? It's time, energy, or a monetary resource. So a democracy voucher is one option if you're a resident. And if you're a resident, you are also able to make a contribution out of pocket. And that includes folks who live outside of the city of Seattle, like myself. And so what this means in having that kind of democracy voucher is that she gets to spend some of her time with us here, rather than being in a dank room, making phone calls to a bunch of randos, right? But she gets a chance to spend some time here. And so let's, I think, to exercise and make the most out of these opportunities to support grassroots efforts. If you have those democracies vouchers, please do contribute those to Teresa. It also means that she isn't beholden to any large and wealthy contributors and interests that are outside of ours. It's an opportunity to keep this campaign grassroots. There is a maximum contribution of up to $300 for a year. So if you're able to contribute your democracy voucher and you're out of pocket, that would be awesome. That would keep this campaign going. And I know folks who have already supported this campaign and may have already sent your democracy voucher or made an online contribution. I'd just like to get a sense of who that might be. Can you raise your hand if you've already donated to Teresa's campaign? Right on, right on. Much, much appreciated. I believe Catherine is going to drop in to the chat a link to where you can make that contribution for Teresa. If you're a resident of Seattle, you lost your vouchers or you can't find them, Catherine can also direct you to where to find those as well. So, and I believe Teresa also has a few other meetups for folks to hear in on the campaign. One by a good friend of mine, Michael Tamayo, and I believe it involves a cooking lesson. So I'm going to try to get it on that. Say again?
And cocktails too.
And cocktails, there we go. Which you can order from, I'm trying to remember the name of the restaurant.
Hood Famous.
Hood Famous. So you can pick up a kit from Hood Famous, and during that session, we'll have an opportunity to make the cocktail, and I think it's a dessert, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, all the good stuff.
Right on. All right, let's keep supporting Teresa.
Thank you so much, Randy. Thank you all very much. And I didn't want to cut anybody else off if there was something anybody else had to say or another comment. Okay, I'm seeing applauses. I do want to thank all of you. A thumbs up. It's so good to see you guys. It's really, really fun to see so many faces that we haven't seen in forever. And again, I see Representative Harris-Talley on the line along with Senator Del Saldana's too. I just want to thank you for your tremendous work this last legislative session. Housing, investments in homeless, worker protections, and making sure that we have more support for artists and community like the kind that Jake is creating has been really great to see you. Women of color in action. So thank you very much. And Jake, I'm wondering also if folks are interested in buying art today, like we can maybe walk around a little bit too, but how would they best buy art from you in addition to coming to the gallery?
All right, well, if y'all can't make it to the gallery, you can shop online, and I have t-shirts and artwork and the canvas reproductions and all that stuff. Is postcard stickers are all on the website. You can buy that and it'll be shipped to your house. So you can go to either NepantlaCulturalArts.com or JakePrendez.com. It's the same shopping cart, and you can do it that way. Definitely, we'd love to see you at the Nepantla Cultural Arts Gallery. Again, we're open Thursday through Sundays from noon to 6. Come in here if you want to buy one of the canvas reproductions. You get to take it home with you that day. You don't have to wait for it to be delivered to you through the mail.
That's right.
You can, I think we're going to do a couple things that you can just buy right now, and you can either pick up, from the gallery. Or contact me and I can send it to you or something like that. But And you can just, if you want to donate, just go to, my Venmo is at, Jake Prendez, and you can just donate if you want. But yeah, so
You want to
show
show,
some
yeah,
stuff? Okay.
show some stuff. And I'm gonna grab this book and show folks this little book. Can they hear us okay? I'm gonna come over to where Jake is. This is Camila's favorite book right now. I just want you to know that. They sell this little kiddo books, and this is what the second or third book that we bought from you, and she loves it, has to have it. So books, candles, all the fun stuff. But Jake's got a really cool piece of artwork that he did right over there.
Hold on one sec. We're switching here. We're switching.
And then, yeah, so this is one of the ones I talked about in the presentation. This is a reproduction on canvas. It's 36 by 24, and large canvases like this, reproductions are $250. And then I want to show you an example of a smaller canvas. So something like this is going to be $150. And so these are reproductions on canvas.
And folks, you can come off of mute. You can also use the chat function too if you want to put your dibs on something too.
And this shirt's been really popular, Hell Against Hate.
Hell Against Hate.
So if folks would like those canvas paintings that we just showed on screen, please send it in the chat so that we know who's claiming them and that we can contact you to get those beautiful paintings to you.
Another popular item in the gallery are concha pillows. I have a couple of these on my couch. I have the pink and the chocolate one on each side of my couch. These are $20. And then I just show you, we got cool mugs like this.
Oh, Teresa.
You can read that, but
look familiar.
Don't be self-conscious. You can have coffee and a concha with that.
Teresa, I just picked up some of these, and this was it's fun to like get in your car and actually have it smell good and see some nice Chicano art. So.
And then the last one, just because it was on the flyer, this is actually the reproduction. The original is getting digitally scanned and things like that because it has sold to someone on this call. But this is a reproduction, and again, this is $150, and this is part of the Essential Worker Series.
Okay, Shawnee, I saw you say I want. Did you want us to put something on notice? I'm trying to make sure I'm watching the chat here too.
Hey, Teresa,
Shawnee, you can take yourself.
Teresa.
Did you want to show other folks anything else?
Hey, Jake.
Okay,
great.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Well, I know there's a lot of chat still happening, and I just want to say thank you as folks take a look around your store, both virtually and online. Remember Venmo, Jake Prendez, and to check out the shop Thursday through Sunday.
Noon to 6. And all the art in the exhibition is for sale. Another real quick, we don't take a gallery cut here. So artists get 100% of their sales. I don't know any other gallery that does that, but we want the money to go into the hands of the artists. We want them to profit off of their labor. We make money in the gift shop and selling my art, so that way they can have 100% of their sales. So you can come in and buy art from the exhibition. We have 14 amazing artists in this exhibition alone.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm gonna just say thank you. Shall we sign off to folks? Okay, I'm gonna look at this camera because I'm not sure which one's working. Thank you all very much, and it has been a long year, and it's been a really rough year. Can folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. So it's been a long and really rough year. I think that it is really important for us to be able to support each other, support what makes community, art, and culture is what makes us want to continue to stay in this region, to be able to raise our families here and to be able to see our friends one day. We're going to all be in one room again, and we will celebrate each other. But thanks for joining us and for helping to make this campaign possible so that we can continue to do really important work in the city, like house people, make sure people have food on the table, and that we address the support for small businesses. And thank you for helping to prop up all that Jake does to help make community and art in this community. So one more round of applause for Jake. And thank you all so very much for your time tonight. Have a great night, and thanks again for your support.
Thank you.
Yeah.